Alright, I'm sorry if the lighting is very bad in this video. I'm literally like, kind of in the middle of like an earthquake almost. So yeah, it's kind of hard to get good lighting. It's kind of rainy out. But so this is going to be a full review of the Pulsar Xlite V2. This was sent to me by Pulsar, and they also did send me some grips, but I'm going to make my own video about that. But I do have them on the mouse, but I'm going to make them its own video because they are actually kind of insane. But first, I'm going to start off with the specs of this mouse. So the Xlite V2 comes in at $80 from the Pulsar store. This is what it looks like. It is like an ergonomic shape. It's like an EC series mouse, something like that. And 3370 sensor. Your on and off button is here, and Kale 8.0 switches on the front. There are MWK like dot switches on the sides, and there is an F switch, a 13mm F switch encoder for the scroll wheel. So that's all of that. And then it is rated for about 70 hours of battery life. But I didn't get that. I probably got about 55 truthfully. And also it comes in at 59 grams. So this is the dongle that you get with it. Obviously it comes in a white cable, but I'm just using the red one because I also have the Xlite. I have the X2 on my desk. But when you open up the box, you are greeted with the cutout of the mouse. You have your cable here, which I didn't even open obviously because I already had a cable, and you get all your manual, Pulsar stickers, stuff like that. So that is what you get. One thing I will credit Pulsar on is they label their dongles. When you see this, you can see it says Xlite V2 right there. Even on the X2, it says X2. On other dongles, a lot of them don't do that, and it's really annoying. Like for example, the G-Wolves ones do say like G-Wolves receiver on it. And you know what they are because they're different shaped, but they don't say like the mouse on it. It would be nice to just have it say the mouse. And it is USB-C. And it does come in a few different colors. You can go on the website and check that out. It's just like white, black, the standard. So let's get into the sensor. It's fine. Nothing is nothing is wrong with it. 3370, it feels fine. It's 1000 hertz. It's not 4K. It feels fine. It is obviously not a Nordic MCU. It is Compex. But that is the same thing as, like the X2 or something like that. So the click latency is not going to be as good as something like Nordic, but this is an $80 mouse, and there are not a lot of ergonomic, or asymmetrical, I should say, ergonomic mice in the $80 range still, even if this is an older mouse. So let's get on to the click test and all of that stuff. Right and left click. Side buttons. Scroll wheel. Okay, so I do have some mixed reactions on these buttons. So the main switches, I sort of have like a little bit of a rubbing on the left click on my Kale 8.0s. It's sort of, you can hear it a little bit. It's just a little bit of like a scratchiness. I actually do not have a lot of wobble on my clicks at all. And that is surprising for like an ergonomic, like a lot of ergo mice have a lot of wobble. There is definitely some pre-travel. Not a lot though, but there is definitely some post-travel. But other than that, yeah. And the side buttons, so the only problem I have with the side buttons, they feel just like the bumper on an Xbox controller. That is the best way to explain it. Like the right and left bumper, identical to that almost. There is no pre-travel or post-travel at all on these. Like when I tell you at all, look, there's none. They actually feel really, really nice in use. My right one, my top one does have like a little bit of a springy sound, but it's nothing that affects it in game. They feel great, honestly. A lot of people said they feel cheap. I like them. They do have some post travel. I meant to say they only have no pre travel. They do have some post travel. And the scroll wheel, I don't know why they changed it. I prefer this scroll wheel. It is super smooth, super like you can barely even feel the tactile steps, but I like that a lot. Like the X2 scroll wheel is much louder. It's very silent, super smooth, and yeah, it's very nice. I definitely prefer it over the Xlite scroll wheel. It is actually probably one of my favorite scroll wheels I've used. It's just insanely smooth. It almost reminds me of like the G4, the G703 scroll wheel a little bit is what it kind of reminds me of. And the click is like a medium. I don't think it's too hard to press. It's not too light. It's just kind of right in the middle. It's a satisfying click. One thing about the clicks though, you cannot click from out on these edges without it. Here, you can see what I'm saying. It smacks into the sides. So you do have to click very close in here, which isn't a problem because it's not a split shell design. So there naturally will be a little bit more post travel, stuff like that. And the clicks are actually super light. They are very, very light. They are an extremely light implementation of the Kale 8.0s at my copy. They don't feel like they're not a bad. Pulsar does not make bad implementations of Kale 8.0s. I will say they feel much better than like the Starlight implementations and stuff like that, or the Endgame Gear implementation I tried. They feel much better than that. Now going on to sidewalls. When I force it, there is some creaking, and there is also like if I leave the mouse for like a few minutes and I put my hand on it, it might creak like once, or it might like make like a little like sound or like feel, but then it stops. It doesn't happen. So I would say there are no quality control issues. There is a little bit of rattle. I have literally no idea what that's from, and I can't figure out what it's from. Because when I hold all the buttons, it's still there. Oh, it's this button actually. It's the on and off button. That's interesting. Anyway, yeah. So getting onto the other stuff, coding. We'll get onto shape actually. So I'll put the specs on the screen. But the main specs are basically it is a 117 millimeters long. It is a very small ergonomic mouse. It is about 40 millimeters at its highest point in height, and it is about 64 millimeters at its widest point. So it is very similar to something like the EC3, which I love. I love this shape a lot. I'm a super big fan of the EC series, if you didn't know. It just feels very natural in my hand. I have a smaller hand, and there are not a lot of small ergonomic mice, and this mouse fits my hand like a glove, basically. So shape-wise, obviously, that is something that's going to be subjective, but I love this shape personally. And the coating is very slippery, in my opinion, extremely slippery. It is a matte plastic, super slippery for me, but when I make a video about these grips, you will want to pick them up no matter what mouse you're using. I'll just put it that way. And the holes don't get in my way at all. I don't even really feel them when I'm playing. 59 grams. It is a very well balanced 59 grams. The battery is right in the middle. No, actually, the battery's in the back. Yeah, the battery is in the back, and it balances. Oh, okay, so the PCB is in the front, battery's in the back, and it weight balances. Okay, so that makes sense. It is weight balanced perfectly. Yeah, it is great. The other thing I can think about is these feet, for whatever reason, feel much better than the stock X2 feet. I don't know what it is. They feel faster. I don't think they feel as smooth, but they feel, this is on a Raiden, by the way, much faster. I don't know why that would be. I don't know if I just got bad X2 feet, but they just kind of feel better. Maybe it's the shape. Not really sure. So yeah, I don't think you really need to replace the feet like at all. And the software, I will make a video. I will put on the screen everything about the software. You do have your LOD, polling rate, DPI effect. I don't know why this actually changed. I had this on steady. I don't know why it changed. Maybe I didn't actually change it, but I would actually just turn this off. Maybe that's why mine didn't last 70 hours because of the DPI, but I do use 3200 DPI. But it's a very simple software. It's not bloaty. It's pretty good. But back to the mouse. Yeah, everything on here is pretty good. The bottom is good, all of that. Pretty simple review. The cable they give you is good quality. For $80, I mean, it's a good mouse, honestly. Like, it is a good mouse.